It felt good because we were so well rehearsed and the music sounded awesome.
And I was
And
there in Ottawa. Let's just say that. So
yeah, I knew they were my last two shows with the band as well. I don't know who else knew other than Christian in the band. I don't even know if Jag knew at the time. I don't know because nobody was talking to me about it. Um, so those were really important to me for all of those reasons. And I wanted to make core memories at those shows. So yeah, it felt really good to get back and do that, and to really focus on just playing the best I could possibly play. Um, which didn't end up happening because I fell over and hurt myself, and it was very hard to play. But I'll never forget the crowds. I'll never forget the very last song at the Phoenix, Levitate. We played Levitate, and I remember just taking it all in, like thinking, I don't want to take any of this for granted. I need to remember every moment of this, and looking out at the crowd and looking directly in people's eyes and smiling back at them. And I in the very last note, dun 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 dun, and I remember that right before that last note, it's that same thing, like an accident where everything goes and slows right down. And I went, here's the very last note I'm ever going to play with this band. And I went, bah, and just looked out at everybody and said, thank you. And so it was really great.
you don't want to miss that last note when you know it's your final note.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be
Because I've missed
tragic if
so
you got
many
caught up
others.
and it's like you just
I
didn't
feel
play
like I
that last
ruined
note.
their live recordings. They made a lot of live recordings. I fell, I broke ribs, I broke my ankle in like the third or fourth song in Ottawa, the first of those. And it became hard to stand. It became hard to hold my bass, and then it started to become really hard to play, because my whole side was wrecked, and it's still wrecked. I broke stuff up here and on the side and in here. I couldn't pick up basses to switch, and I was just forcing myself to do it. And so my playing really went out the window. So I wish that hadn't happened, because at our rehearsals leading up, we rehearsed a lot because it's so important to that band to kick ass, and to sound great. And Jag hears music in his head a certain way, and if it's not that way, he's unhappy. And so we worked till he felt happy enough to record it. And then I remember being at rehearsals thinking, I've never played this well in my whole life. Like, I'm ready to kill this, right? I can do stuff I couldn't do before. So that was the best part for me, was knowing that we were ready. But then it turned into the best part for me was just remembering the crowds that were there. So yeah.
So I was there at the Bronson Center in Ottawa. I was there with a bunch of friends. We were right up front. And I remember within the first few songs, I turn around and I'm talking to some of my friends, and I turn back and suddenly I don't see Chuck anymore. And then my friend Eric's like, Chuck just Chuck's on the ground. So he witnessed the falling.
Yeah, part of the
And
universe telling me to stop.
yeah, so your Chuck's all the way down on the ground, then Chuck's back up like nothing happened, plays the whole show. To us, everything sounded and looked great, and we thought, like, Chuck's pretty wild, like he probably got down on his knees and then all the way down and then whatever. And with my friend Eric's like, oh, I think he might have fallen, but everything looks fine now. And at the end, when the show's done, I messaged, I said, hey, like, I know you're busy, just if you have a second to say hi. And you're like, I am probably going to be at the hospital. I'm like, what happened? You're like, I think I broke my ribs and my ankle or my foot. And then you posted pictures and it's like your foot was like blue and yellow. What, like, your leg gave out while you were playing? What
I
happened? Any
slipped on a
idea?
cable or something. I went to jump up and do a flying scissor kick rock move, and
A David Lee Roth
yeah,
splits in the
yeah,
air
do
kick.
the Roth Kung Fu. And as I went to jump up, there's just this perfect spot. And another Sunday where I love to do it. For all aspiring stage jumpers, jump on four, you'll always land on one. Um, and that's
Good
a perfect
advice.
one, because we do this big one hit. And so I jump on four when it's quiet, land on one. Um, it takes time to learn that stuff. And you don't just do it. You got to figure out how. But I went to do it, and I stepped on a cable when I went to lift off, and And I remember looking back and my foot was completely backwards. But I was still standing, like it was twisted the other way around.
Oh,
And I went, oh my God. And then I guess the tendons or whatever throw your body at the ground because you can't. So I'm still playing and I never missed a note. Right. So
yeah, I didn't hear anything. I
yeah,
I,
I
I
didn't miss a
only
note.
physically missed seeing you fall down.
I
So
was on the ground and I remember Christian looking at me and going, what happened? He's playing. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm old or something. And I stood up and I didn't think I was going to be able to stand up when I was down there. When I watched the video, I'm amazed at how fast it happened because it was another one of those things where it was like everything stopped. I'm on the ground and it felt like I was on the ground forever playing, trying to figure out how I was going to stand back up. And I remember thinking, oh my God, we sold out both of these shows. They can't do it without me. I have to finish. I need to get up. And so I stood up and played through. But when I got off stage, I made the mistake that they tell hockey players not to do when they break their ankles is leave your skate on, right? Because it keeps the foot in place. The second I took my shoe off, my foot went whoop and turned purple. And then I couldn't use it anymore. And I slept in my front hallway that night because I couldn't get up my stairs. And so and I didn't sleep because it hurt so much. And so the next show in Toronto, I played without any sleep with a very broken body, and got through it. So,
and as bad as your foot looked, you were saying that your ribs actually hurt as much or more. Is that
oh yeah,
right?
it was bad. And so then I did the Standstills tour right after that too. And then during the Standstills tour, I got in a really bad car accident too. So there was all these things that were like, get off the road, stop doing this. So
It's
yeah,
crazy because it's not like your injuries are the equivalent of like if you fell off the stage, you know? So it's
yeah.
just crazy how it's this you couldn't recreate that, I don't think.
I smashed myself. And then right before that happened, I threw myself off my ATV and broke ribs on the other side. So I had ribs busted on both sides too, doing the Standstills tour. So it was like,
Jeez.
yeah.
So all of that leads to the decision to step away from My Mother Earth. You were saying that actually in advance of those shows you knew.
Oh,
Is
I had
it
talked to them well ahead of that. I had talked to them after doing the very first shows we did back. I knew that I didn't want to do it anymore. I knew I didn't want to do it anymore. So I talked to Chris and I told him, and he's a real vibe kind of guy. He writes all the lyrics in I Mother Earth. He's a poet. He's got a real sensitive, like he's got that power of empathy where he can feel things, I guess. And we're talking and he says, I can feel what's happening here and it's okay. Right? It's okay. I can tell that it's time for you to be done. Like you want to stop and maybe we'll do stuff together in the future, maybe not. I don't know. But it's like we're not going to stop you from being you. And so I
That's
understand.
nice.
Right. And at the time I was um asking if they had someone else to do those final shows so that they could just move on and introduce someone. But they asked me to do those last two. And then when those were over, I had planned on those being my last, but they had another two shows booked. So I reached out to the guys and said, if you need me, I'm here. I don't want to leave you hanging because I know it's a really hard gig to fill. Um, but they got Joe Barlow, who is a guitar tech of ours, unbelievably great musician. Joe and I talked on the phone while he was rehearsing with them, and he asked for a couple tips on how to make it sound a certain way, which is making it slippery and slidey. I Mother Earth is about the bass sliding and slipping, so you don't play an octave in one position, do bump. You slide all the way up 12 frets, boom, whoop. And that's the difference. And that was the only direction he asked for, and the rest of it he's done on his own. And what a phenomenal player! I don't think he's permanent because he's got a little kid and a house to pay mortgage on. So I don't think he's going on tour. I might be wrong. Um, but I'm pretty sure that they need to still find someone. So